How were women treated in war? Today we're going to take a look at Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 10 to 14. Lately I've been writing articles. I've been specifically writing an article about Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 10 to 14. But before the article comes out, I would do like a series on Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 10 to 14. So when the article is finished, then this whole series will be finished. But today we're going to be looking at verse 10 and a little bit of verse 11. So if you're interested on Jewish history, or if you're interested in like just looking at the Bible and trying to understand more, I don't consider myself a historian by any means, but I'm just a person who just like talking about the Bible and just learning interesting things. I just like learning. So if you just like learning and this is just like the channel for you because you want to learn and grow, tag along and just see what I've learned and see if you want to like do studies on yourself. I just do it for the fun of it. But we're going to look at verse 10 and we're going to read verse 10 first. Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 10. When you go out to war against your enemies and the Lord your God delivers them into your hand and you take them captive. When I was doing a study, I'm just being honest with you, the first thing that came to mind was when you go out to war against your enemies. People throw the term enemies loosely. But I want to know what made the nations around Israel enemies. Because when you look at the Bible, people who are enemies of Israel were also enemies of God as well. And the first thing that came to mind when I thought about enemies was the Moabites. And the Moabites were enemies of God, but enemies of Israel too, because they wanted Israel's demise. For example, Balak and Balaam. We're familiar with the story. If you're not familiar with the story, I'll break down the story to you. So Israel is leaving the land of Egypt and going through their trials through the desert. And Balak, the king of the Moabites, said he see that these people are grown in number and that they're vast, they're big, they're a nation, right? And he gets Balaam to curse them, but Balaam could not curse them because God continued to intervene, blocking the way, blocking the path, and Balaam failed. But after Balaam failed, he still didn't give up in his pursuit of cursing Israel. He gave the suggestion that they should lead the people of Israel to more corruptions. And what did they do? Lead them to sexual immorality and to worship their false gods. And God did not like that. He even punished the Israelites for that. Did he curse Israel? No, he didn't curse them. But he made a demand and he punished them because they didn't meet his demand. And you could see this story from Numbers chapter 22 through Numbers chapter 25. If you specifically want to see the moment when Balaam tried to lead the Israelites astray, you should take a look at Numbers chapter 31 verse 16. But with that all being said, the Moabites were enemies of Israel, but also enemy of God. But there's other things that I wrote that may constitute somebody as an enemy of Israel. Listen, it says idolatry and immoral practices. 2, it says opposition to God's covenant. 3, attempts to corrupt Israel morally and spiritually, or oppression and exploitation of Israel. We see that in the book of Judges, where the Israelites would get exploited and God will raise up a deliverer, and the deliverer will help the people. And not only that, desire to destroy Israel. We see the Philistines, they desire to destroy Israel. And that's just an example. Or you can even look in the book of Esther. And people can now see that this wasn't just an arbitrary war. And if you're not familiar with the term arbitrary war, let me define it for you. Arbitrary war refers to conflict initiated without a clear, justifiable reason or legal authority. They usually lack legitimate causes like self-defense of war. So they're just going to war just for the fun of it. And we see that today, the main reason people go to war is for political things or territory. The Israelites, when they were in their land, they didn't do it just to obtain different portions of land, but they did it for the protection of themselves as a nation, or they were being morally corrupted by somebody who wanted to destroy them. So they were doing it for the protection of themselves. So when you read this verse in its totality, or this whole passage from Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 10 to 14, when you put it into the mind that these people were marrying their enemies, just put that into play. They were marrying their enemies. So I'm going to read verse 11. I'm going to give a little bit of it and I'm going to stop right there because 12, 13, and 14, I'm going to go more in depth the next part. Verse 11, it says, "And you see among the captives a beautiful woman and desire her and would take her for your wife." I want people to just put themselves in this conditional situation. Because this is a conditional situation. Let me give you an example. I talked about it in my Exodus chapter 21, verse 7 to 10, if you're not familiar with that. But let me read it. It says, if you obey my commandments, you will be blessed. It implies a particular condition must be met to receive that stated income. So in order to be blessed by God, you have to keep his commandments. So that is the if then or. Likewise, in this context of this story, not every war resulted in Israel taking captives, nor did every battle guarantee that God would deliver Israel's enemies into their hands. This passage describes a specific scenario in which Israel's enemies were defeated. Captives were taken, and among them an Israelite soldier saw a beautiful woman whom he desired to be as wife. And we're going to stop right there. We're not going to go to 12, 13, and 14, but I want you to keep this in mind. What constitutes someone being an enemy to Israel? And not only that, the conditional statement being made in verse 11, showing that not all the times this happened during war, or maybe it didn't even happen at all. Who knows? But God in verses 12, 13, and 14 laid those boundaries coming ahead. If you guys like these kind of videos and you guys want me to do more of these things, hit the like button, share with somebody else who's probably struggling with this, because I struggle with this early on in my Christian walk. So that's why I'm taking my time to study, and maybe you guys could be blessed by it. But you guys have a blessed one, and this is Expounding Knowledge.